Welcome to the party. I'm Sam Ekstrom of Locked On Sports Minnesota. Today we tell you whether that long shot Sam Darnold MVP ticket is a gold mine in your hand.
I'm Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings, and the Vikings have made me completely lose my sense of self.
That's great news. Hey, this is Arif Hasan from the Wide Left Substack on location scouting the impossible good British food.
Luke Inman at Luke_Spinman. Just a reminder, football season doesn't actually start until Sam turns on that fireplace.
Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcasts. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. It's time for the Minnesota Football Party. It's your guys hanging out talking next level Vikings football. So join in with Arif Hasan, Locked On Vikings Luke Braun, Superior Sports Talk's Luke Inman, and Vikings insider Sam Ekstrom, plus the biggest names in Minnesota football for the Minnesota Football Party. And it starts now.
Welcome in. Happy Thursday. There's the fireplace Luke Inman was talking about. Welcome to the Minnesota Football Party.
The season hasn't truly started.
Minnesota. 'Tis the season. The calendar turns to October here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Thanks for making us your first watch or listen. For your second one, check out Luke Braun, Locked On Vikings, great daily Vikings content, on-air production. I'm just having a little trouble with the mic angle here, and I think we got it figured out.
Men have never podcasted so hard.
We're so glad you're here. I've got the fireplace. Arif is in London. The Lukes are here as well. Ron Johnson joins in a bit. Vikings-Jets matchups that are going to be compelling to watch on Sunday. The Sam Darnold MVP case. Is it legit? And do we like the London game, or would we rather just play this one on American soil? Today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. That works as well. Use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Let's dive in. Vikings Jets Sunday morning, 8:30 a.m. Central in London. Jets are 2-2, coming off an abysmal loss to the Broncos. Vikings 4-0. They're atop some people's power rankings. The Jets are a weird team, guys, because they have played three, I would say, cupcakes in a row. The Titans, Patriots, and the Broncos, who couldn't throw the football. They've lost one of them. They won two of them. They played a legitimate 49ers team in week one, and they got pasted 32-19. They've got good players that are not playing great football right now, is the best way I can say it. Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson have not been anywhere near explosive. Quinnen Williams is off to a pretty ordinary start. Breece Hall has been super inefficient so far this year. So tell me, where are the matchups that we need to focus on in this Jets-Vikings game? Luke Inman, the Spinman, the Postcaster General, take it away.
I think the trench play, first thing I look at for the Jets, kind of been a big surprise so far this year, not in a good way. Offensively, they added all those offensive linemen through the draft, through free agency, and so far it really hasn't panned out early on. And now Morgan Moses is banged up. He didn't practice yesterday. Keep a close eye on that because the rookie, Olufashanu, he came in last week and he was just like flat out bad. So I guess that's kind of where my mind goes first because, you know, you think about A-Rod, even though A-Rod's like a supercomputer back there, he's seen it all. He's going to make all the right checks, all the right, calls pre-snap and all that. That only goes so far. I think the bigger question is, can that offensive line hold up versus this Flores defense and all the different looks he's going to throw at them? That's a huge test. Like you said, they played San Fran, Tennessee, New England, and Denver, and their offensive line has been pretty bad versus all of them. Now they get Flores, who's just absolutely cooking right now. And I know his blitz numbers are down compared to last year so far, in large part, obviously, because he's been able to get home with 4 pass rushers more this year. But I wonder if he tries to maybe throw the kitchen sink at these guys a few times early in the game, the first few third downs, tries to rattle them a little bit, keep them guessing the rest of the day. Matchup-wise, it's almost impossible to pick like one guy in the Vikings defense because it just feels like it's a new guy every week. Grenard, Pat Jones, Van Ginkel, who knows? But keep a close watch, I think, on Morgan Moses if he plays or not, because if he's out again, anyone who's lined up across from or attacking, I guess, Olu Fashanu, the Penn State rookie they took with the 11th overall pick, in the small sample size we've got, that's like their 2022 Ed Ingram right now. Think about that. And your offensive line is only as good as your weakest link most days. So if he's on the field, he'd be the guy you want to attack and kind of hone in on if your floor is in that front seven. Morgan Moses, keep tabs on that name. On the injury report these next 2 days.
I'm certain. Yeah, it'd be Grenard. It'd be Grenard. So this is the way the Vikings have done their pass rushes, is basically find the tackle they like the least and then put Grenard on him. And then they stick like Patrick Jones and Dallas Turner rotating on whoever the good tackle is. But like last week, I forget the left tackle's name, but everybody hates him over there in Green Bay.
Tyron Smith? Oh, in Green Bay.
No, in Green Bay. Long arm that guy to oblivion, like just every rep, and right in Jordan Love's lap. And they, with a couple of exceptions for like weird looks, had Grenard over him the entire game. So if there's a weak link tackle, I would guess that it's Grenard.
I think that Tyron Smith is interesting too. First year, not a Cowboy, almost 34 years old now. Small sample size, he's on pace to give up the most pressures of his career. Hasn't gotten off to a great start this year. Obviously, that line is all screwed up right now. Gave up 5 sacks last week, had a bunch of pre-snap penalties, and Tyron Smith has not been a lockdown left tackle by any means. So that's a possible vulnerability, I think, for Green Bay. Someone that you wouldn't expect to be a vulnerability, but just that line in general seems susceptible. Arif Hasan, where are you at with this?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because when you take a look at some of their most productive players, they're not on film playing super well, right? So Will McDonald, for example, is their most productive pass rusher by a good margin. And you watch it on the film and you're like, I don't know why this guy has like 5 sacks or whatever. Right? It's like crazy. He's not that good. And then as a run blocker, as a run defender, he's actually pretty awful.
Bad.
And so
He's bad.
So if you've got like, the ability to kill at the line and, Will McDonald's lined up wide or something like that, you've got, some number advantages. You're going to kill to a run and have Aaron Jones, rush right at him. So I think that the Vikings are going to have a lot of answers. I am still worried about Sauce Gardner. I am worried about DJ Reed. I think they're both very good. The thing is, it's just, I feel like this is a scenario where the Jets are going to be kind of, not that they have room to be arrogant about it, but that's just kind of how they operate, is that they're just going to stick Sauce Gardner and Justin Jefferson and then figure the rest out. And that's just like a bad move. Like the Bill Belichick plan of doubling the best receiver with your second and third best guys and then having the second best receiver have the best corner is like usually quite good, and I think would be a great move here. And I don't think they're going to do it, and I think that's going to cause some problems for them. I am worried that like they'll figure out how to make that defensive line work. You're right, Sam, that it's a bunch of names that have been really productive or that we expect to be productive in the past that aren't producing. And the thing about those kinds of players is that at some point they're liable to just be good, right? At any point, and you just have to worry about it. Yeah, Quinnen is the one I'm worried about, especially with the weakness the Vikings have along the interior offensive line. And here's the thing. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is playing poorly. I think that everything around him is collapsing a lot.
I'm with you.
And so, obviously the numbers aren't looking good. But again, when you watch him, it's like pretty impressive, the stuff that he's doing. It's just like there's not a lot there. And obviously it's not working with him and Garrett Wilson from a chemistry perspective. You have to watch out seemingly for Allen Lazard more than anyone else. But, his ability to kind of get out of situations and create some plays, you just can't discount it. And I'm not talking about his history as a really high-level passer. That obviously, can play a role in our evaluation. But just looking at these games where it seems like his production hasn't been there, he's played well. The other guy to watch out for is probably Braylon Allen, who is good, it seems like. He's just good, both as a rusher and a receiver. So pay attention to that. Again, Garrett Wilson likely to go off at any moment. Again, a lot of these guys are good. they just haven't played well. And so at some point, it seems like that's going to happen. You have to be careful. You got to play these teams with, I think, a lot of respect, especially when it's like a neutral site game. There's a lot of travel involved. Weird things can happen.
I just want to circle back to the O-line just super quick, to your point about Rodgers. The games I watched with Rodgers this year, I know he's still working his way back from that injury. He's just a guy a few times a game I look at him. He just doesn't look like a guy who's willing to stand in the pocket and hold on to that ball, that extra beat, that extra half second like he has in years past. He doesn't want to get blown up anymore. You can just see it on his face, the body language, the whole thing. Again, I know it's very early in the process. It just feels like the Jets overall right now, especially on offense, are still a team trying to figure out who they are, how they want to win, what their strengths want to be, how their identity offensively is. And Braylon Allen, that's a good point too. Like I don't think they expected Braylon Allen to be this good, and it's almost like they're still trying to figure out how to use Breece Hall and Braylon Allen at the same time. But Aaron Rodgers, I think if you hit him a few times early in this game, I'm not saying he's going to be ready to pack up his bags and, wave the white flag, but you can just see it on his face and body language early on here. I think they'll figure it out eventually, second half of the season, but early on, doesn't seem like the same ultra-confident Aaron Rodgers right now back there in the pocket.
Play the sound.
What's going on?
Yeah, no, play the sound.
I know what this is going to be.
It happened. Sam Darnold's NFC Offensive Player of the Month.
Hey, let's go. 11 touchdowns. Let's go.
One more time. Big time. Leads the league in touchdown passes. We're going to talk plenty about Sam Darnold in the Sam Darnold for MVP.
Wait, there's one detail, actually, about Sauce Gardner, Justin Jefferson. So they play sides in New York. Sauce Gardner just plays defensive left. So if you don't want Justin Jefferson on him all day, you don't have to.
That was a note I had.
And then you could leave Jordan Addison over there. Thing is, DJ Reed's a good corner, too. So they feel comfortable playing sides. And sides is how they did it against the Vikings in 2022. Sauce was a rookie, but was still very good. Yeah. So they like sides.
Jefferson had 45 yards, 7 catches in that game. They targeted him 5 times against Reed. I think only 1 or 2 times against Gardner. So I don't know if that was an issue of that Reed was just on him more, or if they said, oh, he's against Reed, now let's target him because they perceived Gardner as the better guy. But if they played sides, then they probably just stuck him against Reed and figured, all right, that's our better option. But Reed's been really good. I mean, Reed's been fantastic. He's a top 5 corner right now.
He's great. Yeah. This might be the top to bottom. This might be the toughest or best 1-2 cornerback combo they see all year.
It's got to be the best in the league or close, right?
I don't even know who else would be up there with him, but got to be top 2 for sure. Big drop off to cornerback 3, Michael Carter, too. And I was thinking,
he's fine.
He's okay. Yeah, big drop off, I'm saying, from those 2.
Yeah.
So how does KOC and Luke?
You can stack them. Yeah, you can bunch stuff. You can motion guys. Like if you don't want those matchups, you cannot get those matchups.
And they have been moving Jefferson around, right?
Oh yeah,
like backfield, nub, stack, like true stack, right? Not like in a bunch, but like literally he's just behind a guy. Like really college evil sicko stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. Inside the numbers, outside the numbers, crazy alignments. They're putting them everywhere, motioning him in and out of those locations to kind of help reveal coverage or put defenders in bad leverage. Like this is one thing about motion that I think a lot of people kind of not misperceive, but just kind of assume that a lot of motion is about revealing the coverage. It does help do that sometimes. Importantly, defenses know that that's what you're trying to accomplish and will mess around with that as well. But motion also creates really poor angles for defenders, right? Defenses are always at a disadvantage because they're forced to react as opposed to create. And so they're always a step behind or whatever. So they have to guess and get ahead of the game or whatever. But motion adds a layer of reaction to that. So there are a lot of things that motion does for you. The Vikings are employing, it seems like more than last year. I haven't looked at the numbers, but it seems like they're doing it more than last year, and particularly with Jefferson to create some really hellacious matchups. So
I didn't realize Darnold started the Green Bay game going 8 for 8 or 7 for 7 to 7 different receivers. So it's like KOC.
7 different receivers,
Like not Jefferson. And Jefferson was not even in that for 7. Yeah.
So just to your guys' point, KOC is just handing him so many different answers and options on any given play. And so it's like, even when you can make life tough for an opposing offense with Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed at cornerback, KOC's already shown the ability to have answers in his back pocket and have that plan B, plan C within the reads and schemes and be able to, scheme other guys open on any given play. And then you got JJ that he's getting open as well on top of that later in the game. So, it's impressive, man. This should be a fun little matchup offensively versus this defense.
Oh, that's a good point. Alex Drath just brings up in the comments that Rodgers mentioned that he's dealing with a swollen knee. That's true.
Yeah.
Travel has to make that worse, right? Like, I can't imagine that, going across the pond is going to make that any better.
9-hour plane ride, 10-hour plane. Yeah, that can't help.
Yeah.
I wanted to echo
what do you think Rodgers is going to find when he Googles thrombosis? What remedies do you think he'll find to deal with that on the plane? He's going to be like rubbing a piece of quartz on his thigh the whole time.
Yeah, taking some echinacea root when he lands. Yeah, for sure.
Some good pharmaceutical options.
Yeah, I'll swear by that one.
Get across the pond. This might actually help Rodgers. I did the Clockwork Orange thing. I pinned my eyes open and I watched the Jets.
I'm glad you specified because the Clockwork Orange thing could be a lot
I did
of
the
really
Clockwork Orange thing. Like, God, I hope he's talking about milk.
Held my eyes open and watched back the Jets Broncos condensed game, and I expected it to be I did not know if I would survive.
It was a mess.
I came away, but Arif, I came away a similar feeling to you in that I didn't think Rodgers was egregious. There was everything around him was.
It was both offensive lines were just demolished.
The penalties, but Rodgers did stuff in that game that was pretty vintage. Like, he moved a little bit out of the pocket. He had tight window throws, back shoulder throws. Yeah. He still does that stuff, and he's not going to gift wrap you the interceptions that Stroud, Purdy, Love, and Daniel Jones have gift wrapped. I don't think you can count on multiple takeaways in this game. Unless the thing
about Rodgers, and I think that Inman's point earlier about not taking sacks as much this year, that's really interesting. The thing about Rodgers is, I think more than almost any other high-level quarterback, he is paranoid about interceptions and interceptable passes. He is just not going to take throws that he thinks are going to have any reasonable likelihood of being intercepted. It's not just that his interception rate is low or that his turnover-worthy play rate is low. It's that his throwaway rate is really high. It's that his sack rate is a little bit higher. It's just he will not put the ball in that much danger. He'd rather take a sack than have a throw that has a greater than 30% chance of being intercepted, which honestly, that's probably the right move, but it is, going to make the takeaway game a little bit more difficult. Like, that's just, that's one of his, huge focuses is specifically interceptions, and you'll sacrifice other things, including big plays, in order to get rid of those. So, it's going to be tough to find those picks.
Speaking of just having to grind your way through that game, did you see that Bo Nix stat? 7 of 15 in the first half for -7 passing yards. First quarterback to have multiple completions in the first half of a game and throw for negative yards since 2000. I want to know who the last guy was.
Can't believe Sean Payton pulled the wool over our eyes like this.
Yeah,
I can't believe he tricked us. Yeah.
That son of a... Alice. What are these things?
Why,
Does he miss Russell Wilson? Is the question.
Whoa.
Well, I don't know. Russell Wilson's a backup right now, so.
Whoa.
It's tough to
but
say.
That was also my projection for Bo Nix, so I guess it's a wash.
Yeah, I'm sure this stat is easy to find off the top, but I just wonder who has a higher yak percentage coming out of Week 4, Jared Goff or Bo Nix.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Jared Goff's yak percentage in that quote-unquote perfect game is insane.
Yeah.
Well, 70 of those yards on one play to Jameson, and then there's one more big play, I think. We're going to talk about Sam Darnold's MVP case next, and we're talking about it with serious faces, not tongue-in-cheek. Is there actually a legitimate path? There might be.
Yeah, we'll have to compare his MVP chances to Russell Wilson's to really get a good feel for this.
Right. It's a tight contest between the two. Mm-hmm. That's coming up next on the Minnesota Football Party. We are brought to you today by Gametime, and with Gametime picks, you can get ticks easily, whether that's tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, or theater in your area. There are so many great features on the Gametime app. It is super simple to use. It knows your area because you've got the account set up, so it shows you all the venues in town, shows you the get-in price. It's an all-in price. Make sure that's toggled on so there's no hidden fees, no surprises. You get the view from your seat, a nice panoramic. It shows you where you're going to be sitting, and you're covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So you could be looking at WNBA Finals tickets coming up here pretty soon if the Lynx can finish off the Sun in the semifinals. You've also got the Vikings coming back home against the Lions in a couple of weeks. That's going to be an incredible atmosphere. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Game time.
I feel like
Game time.
Sorry, I was on mute. Game time.
Right.
Game time.
Yeah. Cool.
Yep.
Thanks to the everydayers who watch every day here on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Ron Johnson Show Tuesdays.
Game time.
We are Mondays and Thursdays where it's always game time. We're live at 11 Central. Roundtable on Fridays. Big thanks to all who watch, listen, subscribe. We appreciate it. And all the commenters. You guys bring life to us every Monday and Thursday. So Sam Darnold, I don't know where he started, guys, but I remember we talked about this after week 2. Just after week 2, after 2 good games, Sam Darnold was the 23rd likeliest quarterback to win the MVP on FanDuel. Now, 2 games later, that has radically changed. Sam Darnold is 5th most likely quarterback to be the MVP. He is behind Mahomes, Allen, Stroud, and Jackson. He is on pace for 47 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. 47 touchdowns. And obviously a gaudy number of wins if this continues. I mean, the wins
he's on pace for an unlimited number
infinite
of wins.
He's on pace
for infinite wins. Yeah. As a rate stat, it's undefined.
So it's easy to see why those 4 would be ahead of him just based on the priors. Obviously, Lamar Jackson's legs are a bit of an outlier. Josh Allen's legs are a bit of an outlier in that Mahomes cannot contend with that piece of it. So he's got to put up like an Aaron Rodgers in 2020 or 2021 for that matter, touchdown total. Rodgers threw 48 in 2020. Mahomes threw 50 in 2019 or 2018. So you got to put up some traditional numbers to be considered in the MVP running. But if your team's winning 13, 14 games, you're going to be right there. So what is the case? What is the path for Sam Darnold to take home this award this year? Luke Braun.
Yeah, you got to just keep scoring 2 or 3 touchdowns a game. I do think that this is the kind of award where if you throw like 49 touchdowns, as long as you don't have some super obvious caveat like 40 interceptions, which you could, Sam. You're trying.
Pretty fun.
But like, yeah, like as long as you don't have some crazy caveat, then I think throwing a lot of touchdowns and like leading the league in that stat is honestly gonna do a lot of work toward becoming MVP. But I think you also need to I don't think you can be MVP on a wild card team. I don't think that you can win it, especially with the narratives around Darnold and the Vikings going into the season. Like, as soon as there's a little bit of a falter, everyone's going to be like, aha, I knew it. And, like, it all falls away.
Matt Ryan won the MVP with 11 wins in 2016, and he's also not a mobile quarterback. Like,
those
that
numbers were obscene, though. Those
38 touchdowns,
numbers.
7 picks.
2-seed Falcons, by the way.
Ton of yards. And yeah,
you got to win games, man.
That was pre-Mahomes, obviously.
Yeah.
So, and pre-Jackson.
First thing I thought of, because it's been a while since I've thought about a Viking winning an MVP, I was like, okay, it's probably harder to win an MVP as a quarterback if you have a top 5 or like top 3 defense that you get to play with, right? Because even without that guy, your defense should keep you in most games in theory. Well, I only had to go back 1 year. Lamar, 2023, won it last year. Ravens had the number one defense in the league. 2 years ago, Mahomes, 2022, Chiefs had a top 5 defense too. So that kind of that was a quick dead end. Like that threw out that theory.
It's like, hey, let me take that. Never mind.
That did nothing.
Shattered.
Look at the schedule though too. Like he goes from one of the hardest, early on schedules in the league to now from weeks 5 through 18. Vikings have either their 22nd or 23rd toughest schedule the rest of the way. By the way, Lions, Packers, Bears have like a top 10 toughest rest of the schedule from weeks 5 through 18, so that's kind of good for the NFC North.
They got to play all the teams we smoked.
Yeah, now they're up. But so I mean, you just look at the schedule though. Like, okay, maybe the level of talent of the defenses should simmer down a little bit. But also, it's only been 4 games since he's been in this offense. He's still learning some nuances, the little details. He's still putting things together, week to week. So the attention to detail, his comfort level, I guess, should only improve the more reps he gets under his belt. So schedule-wise, I think there's some things in his favor. Comfort-wise, confidence-wise, hashtag chemistry-wise, things should only improve. I mean, they definitely won't get worse in those categories. And then, two, it's like, people do want to play devil's advocate, say, this is Sam Darnold. The bottom's going to drop out eventually. He's already had a turnover-worthy play. He's already, first of all, had a turnover every game. He's probably had multiple turnover-worthy plays every game at that. So what happens if he cleans some of that stuff up? What happens if he puts together a couple games where he doesn't have those goof-ups or those boneheaded plays? Then what's this whole thing look like? So I think...
He's not Sam Darnold. I don't know what we're talking about.
So, who is that? Alex Smith? I don't know.
What happens if Peyton Manning just inhabits his body? I don't know, Luke.
I don't know, man. Well,
it's not gonna happen, man. We've had 4 games. We've seen who he is. Okay.
Yeah.
This is the guy still.
I'm hedging the people that are hedging. Hedge the people that hedge. That's where I'm.
4 games into the season, it doesn't look like he's going to get blown out in the touchdown passes category. He's already got a nice lead. Like he's 3 ahead of the next closest guy now.
It's kind of nuts.
It is super. Yeah, no passing games are emerging as like the greatest show on turf.
It's going to be actually really difficult to use these passing numbers in comparison to previous MVPs. Last year being an exception because Lamar won it without the most stellar schedule of all the MVP quarterbacks that we have, or stellar resume. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, in a league where it's really difficult this year to get to 300 passing yards, we have to kind of readjust what does it sound like to be an MVP. I will say this though, the stats that bring Darnold down a little bit are the ones that people don't really pay attention to, right? He is among the MVP candidates, he's a leader in sack yardage, right? That'll bring down his adjusted net yards per attempt, right? And voters typically just don't really care that much about it. He's number 1 with a bullet in passer rating. He's really good in adjusted yards per attempt, which is, yards, touchdowns, interceptions, which no one pays attention to adjusted yards per attempt, but they pay attention to the things that constitute adjusted yards per attempt. So it's a pretty good proxy for figuring out what voters might want. He's 3rd in EPA per play. The only reason that Jaden Daniels is 2nd is because of his impressive running ability, which, again, voters will pay attention to. They just pay a little bit less attention to than the passing numbers. Now, personally, I think that Josh Allen is playing better football than any quarterback in the NFL right now. That's great. I would give him the MVP, but Darnold is in that top 5, which is crazy. He's in kind of that top 5, especially if we're focusing on these results-oriented statistics. No one votes based off of turnover-worthy plays. They vote based off of interceptions. So long as those defenders keep dropping those picks, right? Sam's right in it, right? So I think that based on
somebody wrote about the sustainability of their turnovers.
Yeah, it's crazy. You find that over at WhiteLife.football. I don't know. But also about Cartesian dualism, I guess. I don't know. This is crazy. I didn't read it. But
neither did I, to be honest. I don't remember it.
You just blacked out. But yeah, the nature of Sam Darnold's play, I think, would suggest that he's going to regress in some pretty important categories, specifically picks. Right? I think that the Vikings are probably going to run the ball a little bit more successfully in the red zone going forward, so that'll reduce his touchdowns. But, I mean, yeah, of course he deserves to be in this conversation.
He hasn't ran one in, though. He's going to end up running 2 or 3 in, though, too. So
If you have 2 or 3 rushing touchdowns,
that's going to cancel everything.
No, if you have 2 or 3 rushing touchdowns, no one counts those. You need like 6 or 7, and then people get them back.
It needs to be like a thing that keeps happening. Yeah.
You need Josh Allen rushing.
I mean, MVP is such a vibes award, anyways. That
it is.
Like,
yeah, Lamar Jackson won it last year. There is no category where he led the league.
Yeah, no, this is not a resume award. This is a vibes award that like 30 journalists vote on. And so it depends on when the voting is finalized. What are the vibes like? Are they coming off of a big win? Because like that might help.
No. Seriously, this is one of the most annoying things about the MVP award, and I wrote about it last year about how stupid it was that Brock Purdy dropped out at the top of the MVP race and Lamar Jackson rose to the top because it was a late season primetime game where Lamar Jackson won. Now Purdy didn't play super well in that game. But the case for Purdy didn't change after the game, right? I wasn't going to vote for him if I had a vote, but if I were, there's nothing in that game that would have changed my mind. It's crazy. Lamar had a lot of the same problems Purdy did, but he succeeded late in the season in a national game, right? When we perceive the games to be more important because, we've got some like seeding on the line, even though the games in week 1 count just as much towards seeding. We just don't.
Yeah, not just a national game. Yeah, like one of the highest rated games of the entire season. San Fran versus Baltimore. Yeah, that was huge.
So it's a very vibes-based award. It bothers me a lot. I love Lamar, so I don't really want to do much to take away that MVP or anything like that, but
Lamar is going to rush for 1,000 yards this year. It looks like he's top 10 in the league overall. He's on pace for like 1,250 right now. Like he could have a better resume than last year. And then the voters have to say, well, I guess we voted him last year. We kind of have to vote him this year. But there may be some voter fatigue with the Jackson, with the Mahomes that could benefit Darnold because
I don't believe in voter fatigue in the MVP. Honestly, I just don't. People talk about it all the time. I feel like it never materializes. I don't think it's much of a tiebreaker either. There was maybe a case like with one of Mahomes' better years, but I don't think so. And especially not for Lamar Jackson, who has been tagged with an underappreciated label, maybe fairly so, actually, even though he has 2 MVPs. I just don't think people are going to do a lot to compare his statistics this year to last year and say, well, his statistics are better this year than last year. We got to give it to him this year. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to look at it in comparison to the other quarterbacks.
Just get 13 wins and 40 touchdowns, and Sammy's your MVP. I think there's a good chance of that. And if not, there's the nice little consolation prize, comeback player of the year. That's a nice pat on the back. He is
you can win both, right?
In the is there precedent for that, for winning both of those awards? Rodgers is favored by a little bit on FanDuel over Darnold, which
I think put up better numbers.
Okay,
that tracks based on.
That feels like if it's Rodgers, then you just decided this preseason, huh?
Yeah, again, a vibe thing. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So I did look at the tracking for MVP odds, and it doesn't have Sam Darnold's rank. But right before the season, he was plus 20,000, according to sportsbettingdime.com. Plus 20,000. Mahomes is plus 488. And then obviously his odds just kind of, to win the award improved, to pay out obviously dropped. But they just kept sinking in terms of payout. Now it's plus 1,000 according to this website on October 1st.
Wow.
Which puts him behind Lamar and Stroud and all that, but keep this up. Obviously,
so A-Rod and Darnold at the top. Who's right behind him, Sam? Or is it
Burrow.
A big drop off?
Joe Burrow. There's a bit of a drop off. Then Burrow. Then Damar Hamlin. Then Kirk.
Damar.
Where's Dobbins? Dobbins in there?
J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, he's Kirk and then Dobbins. Dobbins is 6th.
I feel like we saw a headline that they changed the comeback player of the year, like
they did
idea
where
where like you don't come back from suck. Like it has to be like an injury or like something you overcame. You can't just like suddenly have a good year after being bad and then be like comeback player of the year.
Well, that would disqualify Sam Darnold.
But the betting odds do not seem to care about this.
So Gino won it, correct? For the same reason.
So the Associated Press clarified the criteria to emphasize the winner should be a player who overcame injury or illness and not just a player who followed a bad year with a good year.
Well, Sam Darnold saw
ghosts. But it's very funny to come back from being bad.
He saw ghosts. It's a sickness. It's an illness.
Persevering.
He saw ghosts.
Yeah, dude, he saw ghosts.
Yeah,
he had
he was
mono.
hallucinating.
It's like
He must have had a really high fever
psychological thing.
for all of 2019 for a bunch of...
Yes.
No, he's coming back from 2019. That's the yep.
Yeah, he's coming back from mono. That's an illness.
Just
Yeah.
in mono.
Aaron Rodgers is going to see ghosts too, but maybe for different reasons, different.
So you're saying this is
Harrison
so you
Smith
got
isn't that
A-Rod
old,
and
come on.
Darnold at the top. This is A-Rod's to lose. This is A-Rod's.
Yeah.
Based on that, it sounds that way, and it sounds like you're wasting your money if you bet on Darnold then, because that would violate the criteria.
No.
Kind of feels like you're wasting your money.
When did they change that? Who was the last person to just come back?
It was like
and
this summer. Yeah, it was this summer.
Okay.
It's important to note that this is just something that the Associated Press gives as the guideline to the voters. The voters can still vote for whoever they want. There's nothing that prevents. All of them are write-in ballots, right?
Yeah,
it's just what the guidance is given to the voters, which will change, right? Their approach and perception. It will change votes, but it still would not shock me if Sam Darnold received votes, even though the new guidance would suggest that he is not qualified for it.
Without question, the bet here is Cousins. What you can get Rodgers at plus 160, who's 2-2. Or you can take Cousins at plus 1,100, who's 2-2.
Same injury.
Why would you bet on Rodgers at those odds?
Well, if it's down to those two, and it comes down to statistical and wins and losses, give me the guy in maybe the NFC South, I guess. Well, also just playing indoor. Look at the Jets. At the end, November and December, you got to play in New England. You got to play in Buffalo. Plus, obviously, in New York as well. In November, it just doesn't feel like a very stat-driven type of situation or ecosystem for A-Rod.
I feel like Rodgers knows how to put up 400 passing yards in the snow.
Yeah, he could.
He's got some experience with it.
He could.
Yeah.
We're going to pause quickly, come back. 4-minute drill. Do you like the London game? And then we'll make our bets for Week 5 next on the Minnesota Football Party. And those Week 5 bets will be courtesy of FanDuel, FanDuel.com, where new customers right now can bet 5, get 200 in bonus bets guaranteed. If you have a hunch on Vikings Jets, Vikings are 2.5-point favorites. Lay down $5, cash that, get 5 plus an extra 200. Not too bad. Then you can spread those around on Sam Darnold MVP odds. Bet 200, 1,100. You probably make a lot of money, like $2,000 and change. FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. Make every moment more. New customers bet 5, get 200. FanDuel.com.
Time.
Game time?
Start the clock. It's time to execute the 4-minute drill.
It's the only way I knew how to mute you. The 4-minute drill today. Do you like the London game as a concept? Or would you prefer this game be in a home or road stadium? Since Arif's in London, let's go first in our 4-minute drill. Arif Hasan.
Yeah, if I were a team, I would hate the London game. I think that the logistical nightmare of holding the London game is not really worth it. Your goal as a team is to win games. It's not to expand the footprint of the NFL or maximize the salary of your players as much as that would be nice. And those are long-term kind of difficult to validate goals. And it just increases risks that hurt your long-term capability as an organization. Sometimes you get the bye after London. In fact, you always have the option to get the bye. But sometimes you don't want the bye then. Sometimes you want it later in the season. You just cannot maximize what your team's long-term goals are, even if the other team is more disadvantaged than you in that specific game for that travel. And in some cases, you lose the advantage you would have had as a result of the season. For the Vikings, in this case, it's to lose their additional home game this season by going to London. So I would not want to go to London as a team for a number of reasons, just because of the nightmare that it causes, the increased cost to the team that it creates, which does get recouped eventually, in terms of like the revenue share of having London games, generally speaking. But for the most part, is just a lot of headache up front. Personally, I love it. I want the Vikings to play in London every year. This rules. I love travel, and I'm always going to have an excuse to do this kind of stuff. So keep it up.
Braun.
Yeah, as a fan, I think the London games are pretty cool. I think, courting an international audience is cool. It's very important for American cultural imperialism to continue, and therefore we have to continue dominating soccer. Yeah. So that's important to me. But also, I think I like that that London games, international games, are kind of an equalizer. And that's like, I kind of like that it's hard to maintain an advantage. It sucks for the players, and I feel for them. And if I were an NFL player, I'd be like, yeah, this sucks. But I'm not one, clearly. So I'm good to see a bit of an equalizer. Like, I don't think every game should be a perfect encapsulation of which team is better. I like that sometimes a good team can, see a challenge and maybe we see an upset. I think that's part of what makes the NFL interesting. So, yeah, I like the London games. I think that it's a fun little novelty. Wouldn't want to do like a whole team in London. I think how much they do international right now is about as much as I'm comfortable with before it starts to feel a little bit weird. But yeah, bouncing around to Brazil and Germany and like other countries and stuff, kind of fun. I'm into it.
So Inman did not like that argument.
He has the StreamYard yips. He's gone. Par for the course. We'll just skip to me. I love getting up early on a Sunday and having the Vikings play. It's great. You wake up, you pour a cup of coffee, football. No waiting around all morning.
Yeah, bud.
It's great. I
imagine having that every week.
It's the
okay. Relax.
Well, if you're a Premier League fan, then you get that every Saturday. And the Premier League people in my life are addicted to like the Saturday morning Premier League vibes. And I enjoy it. And the Vikings have had success, obviously, so that creates a little bit of favor. They've had great seasons when they play in London, so it clearly doesn't impact your team. Like if you have a good team, you have a good team. You go to London, that's part of it. They won 13 games the last 2 seasons they went to London, so that's not an issue.
They would have liked to have Everson Griffin though that one season, right? Like they would have liked having him for the rest of the year.
I don't recall Griffin having a season-ending injury in London.
Didn't he? The last play of the game against the Browns?
Did he get banged up and miss some? He definitely was back.
He kept playing though for sure.
Okay, yeah, it was something that like I thought he was out for like a good chunk of the year.
Well, look back at his game logs, 2017. Here's the negative. In the odd numbered schedule that you currently have, it can kind of goof you up a little bit. Like the Vikings lose the extra home game, but what if you're losing a home game when you're already down a home game? So then you have seven home games and 9 road games and 1 neutral game. So basically 10 road games. That kind of messes up.
Ben Gessling made the argument actually today that the NFL is going to focus on making sure that the teams that are home for the International Series games will be teams that have gained an additional home game as a result of the 17-game schedule. That's so, and I'm not going to look it up. I choose to believe it.
I believe.
By the way, Everson Griffin was week to week and missed a couple. Okay. I think he missed the game against Washington at least, but it wasn't season ending or anything like that. He was back to full strength soon.
I do remember, though, probably complaining that he was on the field at that point.
Streak? Yeah, because it was a meaningless play. Yeah,
up by 17 points against the Browns in the fourth quarter. Come on, still
John
no spin. Is Spinman dodging his bets? Is that what's happening here?
That might be it.
These are the standings, and Ron Johnson's dodging us too. What's going on?
Classic.
I'm
3,000 miles away. I'm still here. Come on. Lack of want to.
Crystal clear, by the way, at your London locale. So
not hungry enough.
Starting with $dollars at dinner time after this. You gotta go get some fish and chips. The 1,000 mythical dollar bankroll. We're making a spread or over under plus a Vikings game prop per week, so 2 bets a week. I am 6-2. I am over 300 in profit, 1303 and change. Luke Inman in second, 1149 and change. He's 5-3 overall, as is Arif Hasan, but only $39 in profit. He was 1-1 last week. And Luke Braun though he's lost money the last 2 weeks, he has gone 1-1. So he's slowly coming to life. He's 2-6 on the year, but does have a bit of a deficit to make up. This week, the minimum $50, the maximum $500. Arif picks first, then myself, then Braun, then Inman if he shows. Arif Hasan, take it away.
Yeah, so let's see, I wrote this down. I also placed a number of bets over at Ladbrokes because that was the most British-sounding bookie I could find. So that was nice. I'm taking Aaron Jones over 66.5 rushing yards at minus 114, and I am going to chase that dollar I lost. So 51 is the bet.
Amazing. I convinced him to bet 41 on the Rams last week and lost it. Now that was 66.5, you said, rush yards?
Yep.
Okay, minus 115, $51.
Minus 114. Hey, let's not.
Oh, I am so sorry. Aaron Jones. Then it goes to me. I'm going to, I think, lean into the Giants being bad, really bad, flying cross country. Seahawks offense is going to score. Need to win by a touchdown. I'm going to take the Seahawks minus 6.5 at home, and I'm going to put 100 on it. I'll get the odds in a second, but go ahead, Braun.
Jordan Addison's receiving lines have been ridiculous. I think that the Vikings are going to do a lot of stacking, a lot of motioning, a lot of getting opportunities for these guys. And I think the Jets understand that they want to get Justin Jefferson a good matchup and will maybe do some things to like keep a cap on that. I don't know if they do the same for Addison. So I'm going to take Jordan Addison over 36.5. I believe that's minus 114, but let me double check.
Going minimum?
Minimum, yes.
$50. All right. It's the 2003 draft. The clock ran out on Inman. He misses both his picks. Back to Braun. You have to get the pick in before he shows up.
Yeah. Jags minus 2.5, minus 120. The Jags always, or the Colts always fall apart when they go to Jacksonville. Anthony Richardson hobbled. Jonathan Taylor not playing, and it's only minus 2.5. Jags actually did okay against the Texans last week. So I'm just going to keep, like an idiot, betting on the AFC South and losing.
Arif, you have time to get your pick in.
Yeah, I didn't actually pay attention to what any of your other picks were, so excuse me if I'm wrong.
Sorry, it's me. It's not you. It's me.
Okay, that makes more sense.
My bad. I think that there's been a bit of an overcorrection on the Ty Chandler props, just because he's had some really super inefficient weeks where he's gotten carries and done nothing with them, and then he had one huge week. But it's down to 20.5. I'm going to take Ty Chandler over 20.5 rushing yards at whatever it was, and I'm going to put 75 on it. And now it's Arif Hasan.
So
it was minus 114, by the way, for Addison.
When I checked this morning, it was Carolina Panthers plus 4.5. When I checked before the show, it was plus 4, so I want to take that before it changes again. Carolina Panthers plus 4, minus 115 at $50.
Against the Bears?
Against the Bears.
Can you read that off one more time? Panthers.
Carolina Panthers plus 4, minus 115 at $50 against the Bears.
Ty Chandler was minus 114, by the way. So
I'm seeing on FanDuel right now plus 3.5. Just
come on, Sam. I checked right before the show.
We're going with
plus 4. It's minus 102. You get longer odds.
Okay, I think we got it. We got to take that. So there's pros and cons. Inman never showed. He'll have to get his bets in later. Ron Johnson joins us now. Ron, we're late in the show, but we're glad to have you here. I wanted to ask you about Aaron Rodgers' legacy, and I'm glad you showed up to talk about this today. Aaron Rodgers has one Super Bowl. He's going to end his career with some of the best stats in NFL history. Where does he land in the annals of football if he ends with the one Super Bowl and all the stats, like kind of a Dan Marino vibe, right? Who never won a Super Bowl.
So he did win a Super Bowl though. So
he got one. He's got one.
So I would say he has to be a little bit ahead of Dan Marino with this. I mean, he won a Super Bowl. He has been considered one of the best quarterbacks to ever play. I think the Super Bowl kind of puts him ahead of, let's say ahead, but yeah, you got to go ahead of Dan Marino. Like the Super Bowl puts him ahead. I mean, like Eli Manning, we're saying his 2 Super Bowls puts him as a Hall of Famer. So you have to say Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Famer for sure. He does have a Super Bowl. And as far as like peer review, because that's what it comes down to too. his peer review is always going to be super high. Like, guys always wanted to play with him. Guys consistently, like Devontae Adams is considering spending a couple years with Aaron, at this point with the trade to the Jets. So I think his peer review too is going to always help get him into that like top 5 for sure to ever play the game.
Yeah, fair enough. Ron, have you been to London before? Have you ever taken in that city?
No, I've never been across the pond. I've been to Beijing, and I've been to Mexico. I can't think of the other places I've been. I know I've been to like 4 or 5 different places, like Honduras. I'm losing track of them, but I know we've been some places. But no, never been to London. Never been to London. Thought about it. Chad Greenway had an event, and that was one of the things I could have bid on was a trip to London. But ended up deciding like the timing and everything else we had planned and didn't want to do it. But yeah, maybe one day. But no, I've never been.
Ron, Blake Cashman is off to a white hot start to the season. Is he already the second best Gopher to ever play for the Vikings?
Second best. So who would be the first? Marcus Sherrills?
Carl Eller.
Oh, Carl Eller. I was thinking I forgot about Marcus Sherrills.
I thought Sherrills too. I was thinking Sherrills.
Yeah, well, it's a special teamer, but this is part of the debate. Or you could also argue Jeff Wright from the 70s.
So Blake Cashman, no, I got to see more. I mean, Marcus Sherrills for me is still up there. Like Marcus is one of the most dependable punt returners in Vikings history. I think he has like some Vikings history stats with returns too. Like, so I still got to give Marcus Sherrills his flowers. Like, no, Blake has got to do some more, but he's legit. But it's always about longevity. Like we talked about this. Is Stephon Diggs one of the best Vikings receivers ever? Do you put him in that conversation that Chris Carter said? Like, it's about longevity. Like, you can't just give it to Stephon because he's been good other places. He didn't do it long enough for the Vikings for people to really want to put him up there.
Tough Randy Moss scene.
Arif, you're muted. Audio's in the tank. He's in London. It takes a while for the words to get here. There's a delay.
He's on a time delay.
Yeah.
By about 6 p.m. tonight, you'll get your question.
Hopefully he doesn't RG3 the croissant. Like, just, cut it up before it.
Still can't hear you,
Yet.
Arif. If you want to type it to me, I can relay it.
The last 7 minutes of this show have technologically really gone to heck.
Is Luke Inman in London too?
Inman inexplicably dropped out somehow. We don't know what's going on. Ron, just give us a key to the game, Ron. What are you going to be talking about in the pregame show?
Yeah, so I'm doing a film breakdown, of course, always 7 a.m. super early. But my film breakdown this week is the Jets offense, and then how do you go against the Jets defense? So looking at Sauce Gardner, looking at third downs, like the Broncos game was terrible. I watched that. I don't know why I did that to myself, but I did watch it. Had to watch it. It was terrible. And then when you look at some of the other plays, their third down defense is really good. I don't have the stats in front of me, but their third down defense is really good because the teams they played did some trashy stuff on third down. Second down, though, is where some teams attack them. And I think that's my key for the Vikings is, like, don't be afraid to attack them on second down because they give you a lot of vanilla defensive looks. Like, they give you a lot of 7-man boxes with all 3 linebackers at depth. Like, there's not a lot of trickery on 2nd and 7. Third down is where they eat. Johnson is out. He's hurt. He's out for the season, so we'll see what they look like against the Vikings. But on third down, they get really aggressive, and they do a lot of stuff like Flores where they put multiple guys in. They try to confuse you on the coverage, and that's where they win. When they just play straight-up coverage, Sauce Gardner kind of looks uninterested, and he kind of gives it away a little bit. Him and the safety give it away a little too soon before the snap. So my key is Sam Darnold. He has to have some fake goals in there, maybe some motions, because they'll tell you what they're in. And then once you know it, now just watch for Sauce Gardner because you can use him to bait the other guys. Like they think Sauce Gardner has it all done, and he does. But then you use that guy. So there was a high-low situation on an over route by the Broncos. And if Bo Nix can do it, anybody can do it. It's like dodging. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. Bo Nix was able to read the high-low with Sauce Gardner and the safety. He had an over route and then he had a go route. And he was just patient enough to roll out, got him out the pocket, so maybe a little bit out the pocket stuff. Again, Johnson's down, so we'll see. But then they turned around and they were able to throw the ball to the deep over. I think it was Sutton. But that's some stuff you can do. Like, watch where Sauce Gardner is. And then same thing on that same over route. If Sauce cheats and you pump the over, now you got the deep ball. And I think that's the next level. Bo Nix, he's too old for that. where I think Sam Darnold's young enough to do it.
All right, so my question was, if you can hear me, one of the
loud.
Fantastic. That's great news. I can turn that down. But my question was, like, I love international travel. One of the reasons I love it is because I get to try as much weird, different food as possible. And, whenever I read about, preparing for the London game or preparing for international travel, they always talk about making sure that the food is identical to the food that they get at home. Oh, yeah. And how much players dislike having a change in their diet. Can you kind of, like, put me into that? Because I can't understand that at all. Can you put me in that mindset?
So, like, I heard one thing over there is, like, gravy and French fries, right? Isn't that one of the things they do over there?
Yeah. I gotta be honest, it kind of rules.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to throw back a bunch of that before a football game.
Right, exactly. So to that point, like if you're a guy that like your breakfast is yogurt and granola, if your lunch is Caesar salad with chicken, if your dinner is shrimp pasta, you kind of want to do that. Like you don't want to get over there and all of a sudden start eating a bunch of beignets and all these different desserts. And now I will say this, the players leave, I think today. When they get there today, they already practiced this morning. When they get there today, they got time to just, get acclimated, get us together. You're going to see some guys maybe try some different things tonight, but I'd say Saturday for sure. Friday night, Saturday night, you're going to for sure see guys get back on what they do. You might have the one night, like I said, the Thursday, because then the Friday practice, it's kind of like full speed, but no pads. But yeah, you don't want to get over there and put a bunch of gravy in your stomach that you're not used to. The consistency is different. These are well-trained machines, and you don't put, it's like a car. You don't put like diesel into a Tesla. Like you just charge it up. And so I think that's the thought process with it. And there's all kinds of sleep studies and there's all kind of food studies. We know PJ Fleck hired a dietitian. We know he said he went to practice with the Vikings, and Kevin O'Connell has a similar thing with their nutritionist. So it's all about the nutritionist. These coaches have no idea. They're listening to the sleep doctors and the nutritionists when they decide when do we travel, when do we sleep, and what should we eat. This is all on the people that know what they're doing. This has nothing to do with the coaches and the staff.
Ron, you're the best. He's on the Ron Johnson Show Tuesdays. He's on the pregame show for the Vikings Game Day Live. He's on the postcast with us after every single Vikings game. We got a roll for Luke Braun, Arif Hasan, Ron Johnson, of course, and the suspiciously absent Luke Inman, who dodged us there before the gambling picks. I'm Sam Ekstrom.
Oh, I could have
do
done
a welfare
Luke
check
Inman
on him later.
I could have done Luke Inman impersonation.
Oh, we should have. We should have.
Jerry.
Can I find my first loss? I can't see it.
And Ron will host our roundtable tomorrow for more fun here on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Thanks to everyone for watching, listening, and commenting. Talk to you next time.